Peace, 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 peace. Welcome to the Universal Temple for the Sun, Planet, Moon, and Stars. I'll be your Lord of Hosts, Lord Messiah. And today we're going to go into, how we always do international law. You know what I'm saying? We're building on international law. And I wanted to break down some science because I was at the Parliament on Sunday, last Sunday, Universal Parliament, and it was a great Parliament. I had a little adversity, and I wouldn't even necessarily even call it that necessarily per se, but just some brothers may have had some misunderstanding about some things that they may have seen on my page, and maybe they didn't investigate it as thoroughly as they could have or maybe should have. And maybe I just had to answer some questions for them and clarify some things. So that was a great experience as well because it gave me an opportunity to also allow other people to hear some of what I be speaking about. You know what I mean? And some of my perspectives on things. You know what I mean? So that was definitely peace. So I'm gonna pull this up right here. And and also too, let me say, during the Parliament, I was building with a few brothers, and like Allah B, he had pointed me out to one of the firstborns of Medina, the god Hakim, and another brother Malik, and these two brothers were with the god Hashim from Medina, and this was going back to God Equality, 1976, and Knowledge Born God Equality. And these brothers had went to the Capitol building in Washington, and they had I don't know if they had like spoke on behalf of the nation or they were there as specially invited guests and so forth. But they were speaking about how they was going into the Capitol building. He was breaking down the science on the in there, and they had went into the library, as well, because they have the Library of Congress, and in this library they have basically everything, man, all the books, all the world history, all the ancient scrolls, and all that good stuff. Like, Library of Congress got basically everything in there. You know what I'm saying? And so I built with them brothers about that, and I was asking them about the United Nations, and if they had went to the United Nations. They didn't necessarily say that, but I was building with them brothers about drawing up a universal treaty of peace and presenting it to the United Nations, and seeing how we can go about bringing that information into use of our nation, because there's ways that we can elevate as a nation, and this is this is the information that I was bringing forth. So I was building with a few brothers in the cipher. Brothers asked me like, "Yo, God, what you want to be? God, more was this, that?" No, bro, I'm a law. I'm a law, and I'm gonna be one of, the people that's gonna elevate this nation. That's who I am. And anything other than that, it's uncivilized. You know what I'm saying? So, and so science is like, I built on international law, built a little bit about on customary law, and basically how by us developing and drawing up a universal treaty of peace, we can present that to many nations of the planet Earth. And as we have nations accede to or become part to that treaty, become basically in agreement with that treaty, and like I said, we can draw up our own treaty. We don't have to necessarily accede to another nation's treaty or a treaty between other nations. We can draw up we have intelligence. We can draw up our own treaty, in which I'm in the process of doing as well. I'm going to draw. I mean, like I said, all my work, the works that I do, I have templates. Keep my templates. So basically, I can draw up one for Lord Messiah Law L Nation and the Universal Temple for the Sun, Planet, Moon, and Stars, and I could draw it up for Allah Nation 5%. You know what I'm saying? Allah 5% Nation, the gods of Earth. I'm going to present this information before the nation because, like I said, I'm going to do what I do for what I'm doing for my nation, regardless. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, I came up in the nation of gods of Earth. And this is my nation till the day I die. So regardless of whom or what. So all that, what you talking, like, bro, this ain't no boys and girls club, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't no, yo, man, you ain't part of us. What you down with them? What you think? Man, get out of here with all of that, man. I'm a grown-ass man, dog. You know what I'm saying? Grown-ass man. Like, if I choose to associate myself in any type of way that I associate myself, as long as it's right and exact, and I'm not, compromising the teachings in which I stand upon, saying the truth within my square. You know what I mean? I don't do that. So as you can go into, you can see, I posted on my page, my international organization. What is an international organization? It's an organized body of nations that interface or treaty with each other. So how I drew up my international organization was based upon the philosophies of knowledge of Noble Drew Ali, the philosophy of wisdom of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the philosophy of understanding from the Father Allah, which came to the philosophy of culture for my divine institution or my universal temple for the sun, planet, moon, and stars. You know what I mean? So that's how I born my creation or my existence, my civilization into existence. You know what I'm saying? With the knowledge of God. And understand this is what I was also building on too. I don't know if many people heard me, but I was born universal truth. I mentioned at the parliament, building with the brothers. And, and when I start building on certain things, I amplify my voice because I want to be heard. And not like I want to be heard, like I want attention, but I mean, like I'm speaking some truth. So, you know what I'm saying? And on top of that, I don't have the loudest voice. So this is why a lot of times I may not have got before the parliament to speak to a whole loud, a whole audience that may be speaking while I'm speaking. And it's also good if they got the mic. If they got the mic, then yeah, okay. Then I could, that would also amplify my voice. And, of course. But now, besides what I'm saying is that, I manifested the fact of how, damn, I lost my thought. I'm so sorry about that. But anyway, I'll come back to me. The thought will come back. But my whole thing was that like I was saying, I asked these brothers about their involvement with the United Nations or with or as they mentioned the Capitol building in Washington. That's where they had went to do what they did. So anyway, long story short, after I built with a few gods and went around and so forth, and I got this information from the older gods. You know what I'm saying? That gave me basically the green light on some like, yo, God, and they all basically said the same thing. Yo, God, you can't wait for nobody else, God. If you see it need to be done, God, you got to do it, God. You got to go forth and do it. So I'm like, no doubt. Okay, I took their words. You know what I'm saying? I was even building with Allah B for a minute. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if I was agitating him or whatever the case may be, but I was just building. I'm trying to figure out history. I'm trying to, connect the dots and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So, he had pointed out to me, the brother Hakeem and Malik, which was firstborns of Medina, and they were giving me the history of their association with the god Hashim, who was one of the people that went to the Capitol building in Washington and so forth. So, like I was saying, I was thinking about adding on and also going to the United Nations and presenting. And certain people told me that we had a seat at the United Nations, that we were spoken for at the United Nations, that our name is in the archives or something like that. So I mean, I don't know how to get. I mean, I'm searching. I'm gonna look online. I'm searching. But as far as for the nation at large, it's only a few people I spoke to that say these certain things, and I'm like, well, why is this information not known to the nation at large? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But so anyway, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, I'm being inquisitive. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with a person wanting to know of the history of their nation, and then finding a way of how they can add on to their nation? As the older gods always told me, they told us, God, true builders always build. They told us to add on. You know what I'm saying? They told us to add on. So that means that if it's something that was already been done or something that's already been laid down, we are supposed to come and add on to that which was laid down. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's how I see that. You know. So all I do is I come to, I come to build, I come to add on. And so anyway, long story short. So, but what I was saying about that was also too, though, is that basically, these older gods had basically, built with me and told me basically, listen, God, saying, go forth and do what you need to do. If you see it need to be done, then go forth and do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't be worried about what this person gonna say, what that person gonna say, and da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, no doubt. See, but my whole thing, like I told Allah B, respectfully, like, yo, I can't just as one person go and do something in the name of the nation as one person and then have 1,000 people coming at me like, yo, who is he? Who he ain't Allah, he can't do that. He ain't who said who gave him permission, who da da da. And then brothers was telling me, you don't need nobody permission, God, you got to do what you know what I'm saying. So I mean, I don't know what it is, you know what I'm saying? Now, I'm hearing this from older gods saying, you don't need no permission, you know what I'm saying? Go forth and do what you need to do, you know what I'm saying? If it's right and exact, you know what I'm saying? The gods, we going to back it. But then at the same time, truth be told, and it's not a secret, man, we know it's going to be hate and adversity, maybe some jealousy, whatever the case may be. If a brother goes and does something in the name of the nation for the nation, that's of great magnitude. And then some other people may not have been known or may not have been part of it, or they didn't think of it, or they didn't do it, or whatever the case may be. So these are just real issues that I'm voicing, that I'm putting out there, that, you know what I'm saying? So y'all can understand my disposition, you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? What it is that I have to deal with as far as just trying to do something for the nation. You know what I'm saying? When I've been told as a young God coming up, yeah, God, add on, you know what I'm saying? Build, God, true builders always build, add on, you know what I'm saying? So all I'm trying to do is add on. You know what I'm saying? If brothers want to add on with me, then come add on with me. Don't talk about me behind my back. Don't see me at the parliament and start a debate with me. You know what I'm saying? Don't because I stand on truth, God. Ain't nothing gonna get physical and none of that. But I'm gonna swing my sword of truth. And if your head get chopped off, I didn't ask. Don't say I asked you to do that. I didn't ask you to call me out. I didn't ask you to say anything to me. I didn't ask you to speak loud to me and put me, or I don't know if you assume you were putting me on the spot. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to stand my square and I'm going to speak truth. And that is what it is. So, I don't have no personal feelings toward anybody or no animosity, no none of that. Ain't no, I can speak for myself. I can, everyone speaks for themselves. Everyone says what they have to say. And at the end of the day, hey, it's peace. You know what I'm saying? You can voice your opinion. I voice my opinion. And just because we may have a difference of opinion or, a different degree of how we see things, doesn't mean that, oh, that's not my brother anymore, or doesn't mean that I'm not going to say peace to the brother when I see him, or it doesn't mean that I'm going to go behind and talk behind his back and speak negative of him because I had a disagreement with the brother. No, I don't do that. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no need for that. That just causes more, BS. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't have to exist. You know what I mean? So I just stay real, man. Keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's what it is. So anyway, let me get into this build right here. I don't want to bore y'all to death. I know I'll be talking long sometimes. I'm long-winded. You know what I'm saying? But I'll be dealing with a lot, man. So, it's a lot of things that sometimes I have to express, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes maybe get some things off my chest so that I can be, you know what I'm saying? This is therapy for me sometimes as well, you know what I'm saying? Because if I keep things bottled up on my mind or in my, heart or whatever the case may be, and don't speak or release that energy, that can make you sick. You know what I'm saying? Inner stress makes you sick. You don't, if you hold things up, you bottle things up and so forth, that could be a silent killer. You know what I mean? So anyway, so it's all good. You know what I mean? Like I say, the brother didn't come at me on some crazy wild, he voiced his opinion, he said what he said. I respect what he said, you know what I'm saying? I hope he respect what I say. And, let's move on. Because it's chess, not checkers, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not on some make a move, he make a move, I make a move, that the reactionary type. No, it's chess. And we're on the same team, bro. So let's focus our energy toward the other side, right? Yeah. So that's how I see that. You know what I mean? So we're getting into this right here, international law. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read this off of here. Let me see if I can play some of this out. Okay, I got you. Dealing with international law. Because I was also building with the brothers, you know what I'm saying, and went back and added on with them. And and then as brothers seen me going around and adding on and doing what I was doing, I guess they then wanted to now assist me in what I was asking about. Because knowledge is gonna be made born regardless. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, come on, man, let's get it, man.
7. International law. The court is the organ of international law. The court, principal judicial organ of the United Nations, has described itself as the organ of international law. It dispenses justice within the limits that have been assigned to it by its statute. There is today no other judicial organ in the world which has the same capacity to examine legal questions concerning the international community as a whole, and which offers states so wide a range of opportunities for promoting the rule of law. It is thus the only international court with both general and universal jurisdiction. The disputes that have come before the court have covered the most varied aspects of public and private law, have concerned all parts of the globe, and have necessitated an examination of multiple legal systems and of wide-ranging state practice. The court has also been called upon to address a number of questions relating to the law of international organizations. Irrespective of the nature of the issues brought before it, the court has contributed to their resolution, and thus to the maintenance of peace and to the development of friendly relations between states.
Now, this is the court they're talking about is an international court of justice. This is the world court, the court that the brother was speaking about that he deposited his treaty with. Now, what I was trying to explain to the brother is that you can deposit that information with them, but it's just like kind of like putting it on their record, but they don't have any responsibility to distribute that to anyone or to put anyone else on notice or anything like that. You know what I mean? So it's not like a public notice, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like you have to like go about doing that on your own. Like as far as like we know about putting the information in a newspaper, you know what I'm saying? It could be even an international newspaper, you know, so if you want it internationally known, you know what I'm saying, it might cost a little more, whatever the case may be, but you know, or whatever within your state or whatever the case may be. This is how you make things public notice. But in what's called publication, root word of publication is public. You know what I'm saying? A publication, you know what I mean? You have the right to publication, you know what I'm saying? There's a terminology. I gotta go back into my book to, you know, break that down for y'all. But basically, you know, look up that, man, publication, basically. But peep this, how it says the court has been called upon to address a numerous number of questions relating to the law of international organizations. So when you develop an international organization, the International Court of Justice will deal with any, you know, address any questions, whatever the case may be, relating to the law of international organizations. So you already know I'm about to look that up, you know what I'm saying? And so I could get all the specifics on how to function as a international organization. You know what I'm saying? I've drawn it up, I developed it, and so forth, so forth. And I basically know how to function on a basic level, but this information is obviously going to give me more in-depth info, you know what I mean? So this is what I'll be doing, y'all. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'll be doing. You see what I'm saying? You see how I just, from that one little thing right there, I'm going to look into that and bring about a whole nother deep file I'm about to study and go into, man. I'll be breaking down these files, y'all. I'll be breaking down these thick, you know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff. I don't read all of this, but this is why you have a table of contents, so you know how to navigate through, you know what I'm saying, through things, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's the science on that.
Table of contents. Page forward. 5.1. History. 9.2. The judges and the registry. 21.3. The parties. 33.4. The proceedings.
And they basically break it down how the court, the International Court of Justice, how they do. Like, you know, you can learn the history of it, the courts and the registry, the parties, the proceedings, the decisions, how decisions are made. And they're going to go into how basically decisions are made off of already established, like case law, basically international law on some real shit. Like being that I understand case law on a state level, I understand that this is what they're doing on an international level. Basically, their decisions are made on cases that was already, you know what I'm saying, decided and so forth. So basically you have to bring the best case law. And to understand how you argue case law is basically like, you know, you have to have the most current case law that proves your point. So in other words, you know, you can argue case law with the judge or with the opposing attorney or whatever, as to where, you know, they're like, well, in 1959, Simmons versus Johnson says that blah, 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 and da, 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 da. Well, in 1982, it said that Kennedy versus Washington, that blah, 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 whatever. And then they'd be like, well, in 1989, it says that, da, da, da. And then you'd be like, well, in 2021, we just had a recent case that said that, da, 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 da. And now you have the most current case law that proves your point and it's most up to date. That's going to benefit you in the decision, you know what I'm saying, due to the fact that you have the most current case law, you know what I mean? So that's how you argue case law, basically.
Proceedings. 49.5. The decision. 69.6. Advisory opinions. 81.7. International law. 95.8. Cases brought before the court. 109.1.
Yeah, and they talk about how the cases that are brought before the court are cases that were both parties are basically acknowledging the court's jurisdiction. Like you have to basically give the court jurisdiction to come before them. And basically by you bringing the matter to their court, you're basically giving them jurisdiction over the matter. You know what I mean? But however, the matter is going to be based on international law, you know what I mean, which is going to be based on universal case law, you know what I mean, or international case law. And, basically that's what you're going to be dealing with. So that's how you fight your case or make your points and so forth. You see, it says contentious cases. There's certain type of cases that they bring before the court or accept before the court. Contentious, I think that means like contentious, meaning or more so, in other words, I think is like consensual, meaning like both parties are giving consent to the court's jurisdiction to basically handle the matter.
Contentious cases. 109-1. Advisory cases. 256 annexes. 281 short bibliography. 311 index.
I want to see the annexes because the annexes probably got like declaration templates or something like that. Let me see, page 281. And an annex means an attachment. So like when you draw up your documentation, you might have an attachment to something. So for example, like when you draw up a declaration and you attach it to the birth certificate, you're now putting a different type of claim on the certificate, a counterclaim, you know what I'm saying, which is known as an adhesion contract to the original claim. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't make any counterclaim, then they're gonna, assume or presume that their original claim stands. So this is why you have to counterclaim these contracts. Like, somebody was telling me at the parliament, they was like, we sovereign. And he was like, people telling me I don't know what sovereign mean. Bro, I've been studying this stuff for, man, listen, every day consistently. And I know exactly what sovereign means. And we are not yet sovereign as a nation. Because the people within that nation are still subject to another nation. Hence why I was speaking on at the parliament. I don't bear witness to that terminology of us being a nation within a nation. Because if we are a nation within a nation, that means we are subject to the nation that we're within. Thus, we're not sovereign. And like I said as well, 95% of the people at the parliament, if you were to ask them to go into their wallet, purse, whatever it may be, and take out that state ID, I'm pretty sure a good 95% of the people at the parliament have a state ID. And they also have a social security number. And they also have a birth certificate. Those three things alone makes you property of the state. Why? Because the birth certificate is a claim on you as property, basically. It's literally like an inventory sheet for you as property. And then they store that inventory sheet in the Department of Vital Statistics. You know what I'm saying? And then they put you on the shelf, basically, your so-called name on the shelf. And then as they taught you to write your name in school, first letter capital, rest lowercase, you've been taught to sign in liability for that so-called straw man name. So you have you, the living being, and then you have the paper you. And the gods know this science too. So why are we trying to like ignore this? Like, no, that don't exist because in my mind, I just say it don't exist. And I just walk around, I'm free. And police mess with me. I break down the science to them. And Yeah. Whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? All right. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I hear you. I hear you. I ain't even gonna argue. I hear you. Oh, yeah, so hold on. That was 281. Let me check that out fast. But basically, to be sovereign means to be autonomous, to be self-governed, self-ruled. You know what I'm saying? Now, and people are going to tell me too. I was talking about the International Monetary Fund, that basically they have international monetary funds for nations. There's monetary funds for nations around the world. And once you establish yourself as a nation and accede to the other nations or make some kind of treaty with other nations, then you become part of the United Nations. And not saying that we have to be part of the United Nations. We could just simply, be in treaty, or they can accede to our treaty, like I was saying. You know what I'm saying? We can, it's like I would talk about adhesion contracts or reversing the contract. If we draw up the treaty, and then these other nations accede to our treaty, then they'll be acceding to our treaty under our provisions. And our provisions is basically the laws or statutes or the bylaws or whatever that we include in the Universal Treaty. So, for example, if our treaty says no member of the nation of gods or earth shall be molested, harassed, illegally searched by law enforcement, they are to travel free, yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying? We put all these things in the document, everything that we want, and all the liberties and everything that we want, and everything how we want to conduct ourselves and decide how we want to be treated, as to how we want to treaty with other nations and all of that. And once they accede to our treaty, that means that they acceded to what we said. We didn't say, oh, we're going to accede to your treaty. No, they acceded to what we said. They acceded to the gods. They said, yeah, okay, we respect their treaty. We're going to accede to their treaty. So now what that does is, for one, is like I said, it makes us the presenters of the contract, and it makes them the acceptors of the contract. They're an acceptance of the contract. We are the inventors, the presenters of the contract. So now once they accept it based upon our terms. And that being that we are the gods, we're the most intelligent people on the planet, don't you know that we can make up the most bomb universal treaty of peace ever created in the universe? And all the other nations is going to bear witness to us. So let's take that stance, since y'all don't want to, well, no, we don't have to accede to them. Okay, so let's create a treaty of our own, and then we present it, and then have them accede to our treaty. How about that? We can do that too. And that's something we have not done. Because like I said, even though we have established ourselves as a nation, we have customs, we have culture, we have all these things and so forth, we're still considered a subject people. The people within the what was built up are still in a status of subjection because of the birth certificate, the social security number, the state ID, and all these other contracts that we also are into. The job you work on, all these different things. So there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of renunciation of allegiance, renouncing of allegiance, rescinding of contracts. You know what I'm saying? A lot of reversion of estate. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things we have to do before we can say, okay, we're detached from the matrix, we're cut off, and we're just completely free. Because if y'all think the Emancipation Proclamation set Black people free, you need to really know history, because that ain't true. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what people talking about. We free and we sovereign and we all in this, that, and third. You got to show and prove that to me. I ain't gonna argue with you. You got to show and prove that to me. Show and prove that to me. You know what I'm saying? Show and prove that. You could do a whole breakdown. You could go into definitions. You could pull up the joint. Show and prove that to me. Show and prove that. Because what I'm presenting as far as a universal treaty, a peace and so forth, that will put us in a state of sovereignty on some real shit. And then, like I said, all the nations that accede to it around the world round will know and understand and have agreed with our declaration of sovereignty. Because just saying something out your mouth and being like, yeah, God, we sovereign. Man, we ain't got to deal with nobody. We ain't got to. I mean, it sounds tough and it sounds hard in your attitude and all of that. It sounds all powerful and mighty and all of that. Okay, that's great. But man, talk is just talk. You know what I'm saying? In reality too. You know what I'm saying? Like let's just deal with that too. Regardless of how powerful it may sound and how you want to stand all, yeah, nah, we did it, and all of that. That's still just talk. Put it in writing. You know how they always say, put it in writing. You know what I'm saying? Put it in writing. And the reason I say put it in writing is because put it in writing, you make it your will. You got to understand that. When I looked up the definition of state, let me show you something. Now, and I know we have histories that are written and so forth, but now, how about this? You know, these same books that are floating around the that are going around the nation, that we are buying all these different books and so forth. I would advise to these brothers, like you got the brothers that drew up the true history of the 5%, the knowledge of self compilation and all of that, all of these different books, Why Kill Allah in the Name of Allah, all these different books. If they don't have, which I'm pretty sure they have ISBN numbers, which are international standard book numbers. You know what I'm saying? So now your book is internationally recognized on the international market. But also you can file your writings. If you have an original writing, you can file that writing with the Library of Congress and get a filing number and all of that. And that right there is like an international filing that will be known world round. You know what I'm saying? And which will actually be also a protection of the history. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that would be something smart as well to do, to secure the history of this nation. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we have our own we have different archives and so forth in our nation. You know what I'm saying? But also backing up our information. That's a good way to back up our information. You know, sometimes you got a lot of stuff on your hard drive, on your computer or something, and then your computer seizes or shut down or something happens to your computer or your flash drive messes up or something, and you lost all that work you was working on. We should have backup. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say for the history of our nation and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? No. All right. So this right here, the annexes. This says the resolution of General Assembly, Resolution 171, Resolution 3232, Resolution 44, Resolution. Basically, all these resolutions is what backs them up. Is what some of the law that they use to basically be able to function as an international court of justice is based upon those resolutions. See, so this is how you understand things and so forth. So you could say, like, for example, this would be like their bylaws, so to speak, you know what I mean, that they stand on, that gives them the authority to conduct themselves as they conduct themselves or function how they function. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, if we drew up our declaration, do you know anything more than, I think, what is it, 60 or 80 years becomes ancient? I think it's 60 years becomes ancient history. So we have a history longer than 50 years as a nation. So we would be considered an ancient history, ancient people, ancient history. So people be thinking like, oh, we a baby nation. We just started in 1964. No. We are now today, 2021. We are ancient history. So know that. I just dropped that fact on y'all. Look that up too. What's the time frame of ancient history? You know, what is considered ancient? You know what I'm saying? Like, look that up. As far as what is considered an ancient writing, how old is an ancient writing considered to be? You know what I'm saying? Like, Google that. See what pops up. You know what I'm saying? So we already ancient as a nation. And there's ways, like I say, all I'm trying to say is like, man, I know the ways on how to document everything that we need to document, put it in writing, put it in stone, and then you can stand on it and say this, that, and the third once it's uncontested. So we got to also understand about like contesting, like you know how a person can contest the will or contest the, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, a person passes away, You know what I'm saying? If a parent passes away and the child is like at a state or something, and or something, and doesn't know that the couldn't get to the funeral and everything, and wasn't there like a certain amount of time after the parent had passed away, they could now, and let's say the state did a probate on the parent's estate and just took everything because no one was there to claim it. And then the child came within a reasonable amount of time, or within whatever certain amount of time, whatever, and protested the court. That would be called contesting the will, meaning, no, I'm the heir, I'm the blood heir of this person that just passed away. This was my father, or this was my mother. I'm supposed to inherit everything they had. The state, y'all can't take everything. So then they would petition the court to receive their right of heirship and everything that was owed to them. You know what I'm saying? But the reason why the state would have took it over is because we are considered state property, and if there's no one there to state the will of the ascendant, then of the deceased, then the state is going to take it. Why do they do that? Because they consider themselves custodians of their property, and anything you own to be or claim to be your property, that's the property of the master. You know what I'm saying? So slaves wasn't allowed to own anything. Just like nowadays, you ain't allowed to own anything. You know how these niggas, these rapping niggas, put everything in my mama name. That's because you niggas got, no, not niggas, but you know what I'm saying? That's because y'all brothers dealing with illegal activities in the streets, and you can't put that car in your name because the government is going to be like, well, how did you get this money? You don't work, you don't have a job, you couldn't save up to get this. How did you get this? You got this by illegal means. IRS will come in and try to get you for tax evasion and all this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Or try to say you got illegal funds or whatever, blah blah blah. So you putting everything in your mama name, trying to launder your money or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But the science is that you need to grow the fuck up, be a grown-ass man, develop a trust and a will, and put everything in your will and your trust. Understand estate planning. Plan your estate. You know what I'm saying? Plan your estate. Develop a will, develop a trust, place everything in the schedule of the trust, and then place everything in the trust under the distribution of the will's property. So everything in the trust is owned by the will. You know what I'm saying? So that's like double layers of protection. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, come on, man. That's how you do things. Asset protection. See the jewels I just dropped right there? That's called asset protection. So the same thing we could do for the school. Somebody told me that there's an adverse possession claim on the school, but we can also place a school in trust and place a school in a will, which I have the templates for. All I got to do is just take out whatever name is there, put the Nation of God's Earth or a law school in Mecca or whatever the case may be, and boom, now we got a will for a law school in Mecca. Now we got a trust for a law school in Mecca. And if there is already a such thing, then my thing is, why is this information not known to the nation? Because then maybe members of the nation could help fund the trust. Because there's a such thing that's called funding the trust, right? Like you could just have a trust, right? And just, I just have a trust. But then you have to fund your trust. Basically you have to place things inside the trust. The trust is basically a depository for whatever property is going to be owned by the trust. And that's the whole thing too, is that the name of the trust is going to be in the name of, the name of the school, the name of the law and justice, or whatever case may be. So it's going to be owned by the trust, not necessarily us, or any individual member that could try to manipulate anything. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be owned by the trust. And then it would have to have a large signing of people to agree to whatever decisions or whatever is going to be made, or so forth, so forth. All of that will be set up in the provisions of the trust. You know what I'm saying? I understand the format, the structure, and everything. I can present this for the nation. Gods and earths. I keep saying gods and earths want to come together, put their minds together. We could sit at the table and we could draw these documents up. We could make it public. We could do the publications, make it public knowledge. And, wait the 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, total 90 days. If no one contests what we place out in public knowledge, that means that it now becomes law through acquiescence and non-contestants. No one contested it, which means that they all acquiesce, meaning they all agree. You know what I'm saying? Silence is acquiescence as well. Meaning if nobody said anything, like y'all all got public knowledge. We made this public knowledge. We placed it in the New York Times. You know what I'm saying? We placed it in all the major newspapers of New York City, so everyone is going to have knowledge of this. And if nobody came forth and contested what we placed forth, then guess what? It becomes the law. It becomes what it is. And we will have all the documentation, the evidence to show and prove that we made this public knowledge. No one contested it. Because, like I said, when we state all that, we state all our indigenous information and the fact that we are an ancient people. We have been in this land, the Harlem Renaissance, which is part of our history as well. All of that good stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? I got an adverse possession claim that we could make on the whole city of Harlem and rename it the Holy City of Mecca. Yeah, God, I ain't just talking. I got the documentation. Brothers want to sit down, sisters want to sit down. We could go through these things. We can make it even better. I don't need nobody coming to me now saying, God, da, 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 da. No, I need you to tell me that's peace, God. Also, boom, 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 boom. That's what we need. We don't need none of the negativity, none of the destroying or trying to take away from something. We need the addition. We need to add on. You know what I'm saying? Not destroying. We're gonna add on. So anyway, let me show y'all this thing that I was gonna show y'all before. And I know I've been going a long time, and long-winded. But all this is relevant. Like I said, I don't speak on things that ain't relevant or something that's not gonna be beneficial. You know what I'm saying? So. It's the International Court of Justice. This is their handbook. So if you want to understand basically everything about the International Court of Justice and how they do and what they do and so forth, this is what they do. On the next one, I'm going to come in, I'm going to show y'all the United Nations Treaty Handbook. And I'm going to go through the table of contents and I'm going to break that down and I'm going to go through that and so forth, which I've already done in prior videos. But I think I might have certain people's attention now. So if y'all watching this, then y'all going to know what I'm speaking of. You know what I mean? And then if you want, you could run tell that. You know what I'm saying? Since people want to be talking about the God, like, yo, he said his name is. Okay, and so what? Look what the God is doing. Look what the God is working on. Look what the God is about to present before the nation. And then just find a way where you can get in where you fit in. Stop trying to be a hater. You know, sometimes people hating. Stop being a hater. Be a congratulator and a participator. You know what I'm saying? Because it's now a nation. Yeah, today's Wisdom Bill degree. Doctor, nurse, and ministers, cremators. Somebody said, Minister for Foreign Affairs, minister, that's doctors, nurses, ministers, cremators, y'all cool. Why is that? Because that's all you know? That's the only thing you know of a minister? You never heard of a minister in any other capacity outside of what you read in 120? That's why we talk about brothers being indoctrinated. They be only knowing one thing or one way of seeing things. And if that's your limitation, that's not my limitation. Sorry for you, brother. But maybe there's a whole lot more you can learn. But check it. So it says about relating to international organizations. All right, so forth, so forth. All right, let's continue from here.
The court applies international law. Article 38, paragraph 1 of the statute of the court declares that the court's function is to decide in accordance with international law such disputes as are submitted to it. In every case, after determining which rules of international law are applicable, it is the court's duty to give its decision based on those rules. Article 38, paragraph 1 goes on to provide that the international law to be applied by the court is to be derived from the following sources. A. International conventions, whether general or particular, establishing rules expressly recognized by the contesting states. B. International custom, as evidence of a general practice accepted as law. C. The general principles of law recognized by civilized nations.
Civilized nations.
95. INT Handbook 2019.QXP_mice and page 1 June 11th, 2019, 935 page 95. D. Subject to the provisions of Article 59, judicial decisions, and the teachings of the most highly qualified publicists of the various nations, as subsidiary means for the determination of rules of law.
Pause.
The above is not an
See, I was reading over that the other day, and I was thinking, what do they mean? Most highly qualified publicists. The publicists are the ones that publish information. And like I said, once we make our publication and make this information known on a public platform, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna be our publication. And then they'll be able to view our publication as for subsidiary means for the determination of rules of law, because we stated what our law is in our publication. And like I said, being that our publication was uncontested and basically acquiesced to, it will stand as law. So basically, that's how you basically create your own laws. People will be like, yo, we got to be subject to the laws. No, bro, you create your own law. Did you know that? Yeah, you create your own laws. You stand on them internationally.
Exhaustive statement of the foundations on which the court can construct its decision. Some are listed, but not all. For instance, the paragraph does not mention unilateral acts of states, nor does it make reference to the decisions and resolutions of international organs, which very often contribute to the development of international law and may also be sources of rights and obligations. Whether the court is deciding a case of a contentious nature or is engaged in advisory proceedings, it applies the same sources of international law, and its decisions hold the same high level of authority, since, in both instances, it is laying down the law, even though the consequences of a particular decision may be different. It is only with the consent of the parties that the court is authorized to move away from the sources listed in Article 38, paragraph 1 of the statute, and rule according to what is reasonable and fair, ex equo et bono, see below, p. 98.
So in other words, if both parties agree that well, we don't want to deal with that law, we got our own kind of law we want to deal with, then maybe they'll consider that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's kind of like the parties have some say so in the choice of law. And it's the whole thing. It's the thing about international laws, because you're dealing with many different laws of different nations. So then what they would have to do is, like what's coming up next, is go through the different treaties and see what are the provisions within the treaties that will determine how they can execute some type of law. Because they could say, well, listen, man, it's right here in the treaty. Y'all both agreed to this. So one of you are breaching the treaty. And they show how, so forth, and da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? So now we're going into treaties and conventions.
98. Treaties and conventions. The expression international conventions in Article 38, paragraph 1, is a broad one, covering not only bilateral and multilateral treaties and conventions formally so called, but also all other international understandings and agreements, even of an informal nature, provided that they establish rules recognized and accepted by the states parties to the dispute. The ICJ has emphasized that manifest acceptance or recognition by a state of a convention is necessary before the convention can be applied to that state. It often happens, however, that the language of a treaty or international agreement, which is relied on before the ICJ as containing rules recognized by the states parties to the dispute, is not so plain and precise as to make it clear that such treaty or agreement is applicable to the circumstances of the case in question. As the decisions of the court show, it will then be for the court to interpret the instrument and to determine its scope and effect with a view to applying it. In practice, it falls to the court to interpret a treaty or agree meant in at least 3 cases out of 4. In doing so, it seeks in the first place to determine the ordinary meaning of the words in their context, in light of the object and purpose of the instrument in question, without, however, sticking too closely to the particular rules applicable under the procedural law of any legal system. In that regard, it frequently refers to Article 31 of the 1969 Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, which it has recognized as having customary scope.
Right. So in other words, they're not necessarily going to go to the laws of a state and what the states have to say about their accession to the treaty, but more so based on the treaties itself. You know what I'm saying? And because like I said, once you create the treaty, whatever state or nation accedes to the treaty, they acceded to your provisions, to your stipulations, to how you set the rules. So if they agree to it, they're just a sign on to it. They don't make no determinations on how you function with it because you agreed to how I already said I'm going to function. So the state don't have no say so over how the international court judges the provisions of the treaty. You know what I'm saying? So it will be based upon the treaty. And that's why I say you create your own laws in the treaty. So once the other states accede to your treaty, they acceded to your laws. And they're now subject to your laws, not you to their laws. That's what I'm saying. But like I say, it's the universe go now and break their laws because, you know, saying whatever. But or rather I said, born universal truth is saying that, you know, you have a PDF tree, so you're going to respect each other's laws. That's what it's saying. You know, so it's not making you a rogue. Oh, well, I can do what I want to do, and y'all just gotta bear with. No. It's not. We're not acting belligerent or combative. You know what I'm saying? It's about you being, you know, just like I said, just upgrading your status, man. That's what I'm talking about. Upgrading your status as a nation. Because right now, that whole nation within a nation stuff, nah, man, that ain't what it is. We are to be a nation among nations.
Scope. In its advisory opinion on the legal consequences for states of the continued presence of South Africa in Namibia, the court stated that an international instrument has to be interpreted and applied within the framework of the entire legal system prevailing at the time of the interpretation.
See, it says that an instrument has to be interpreted and applied within the framework of the entire legal system prevailing at the time of the interpretation. So in other words, you have to have a treaty in place. You have to have a constitution in place. You have to have some kind of international agreement in place for them to make an international interpretation. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I say people be just saying, just because we said out our mouths, oh, we sovereign, that makes us sovereign. No, man, no. You're going to be sadly mistaken with that. And by us keep going along with that, just thinking that's cool, it's not, man. That's not enough to just say it out your mouth. We're sovereign. No, bro. Because to the rest of the so-called civilized nations of the world, you know what they consider people like that? They consider them to be, and this is for the nation to know. So we don't go around here being mistaken. It's not about you being afraid or being scared. It's about you being intelligent and knowing what's really going on. Nations that have not declared themselves as a nation, they are considered warring, or they could be considered warring factors. What's considered a warring factor? You know what I'm saying? Meaning like, yo, you know, you just out here willy-nilly, just out here doing what you do, like whatever. You ain't got no agreements with nobody, no treaties with nobody. Nobody's in treaty with you. So we don't know, like if we cross some boundary or step on your toes, we don't know that we did that because we didn't know that you had toes, you know what I'm saying, to be stepped on. So, you know, you got to make it known who you are to the rest of the whole world. You know what I'm saying? Not just thinking because we didn't spread teachings and we taught mad people in Japan and brothers in Europe and brothers in Africa. And we spread our teachings all over the world. That's cool. But also, like I said, if we put our teachings in stone and make this an international publication, then we could be like, oh, those brothers there, oh, they're the nation gods of earth. Okay, oh, we all internationally know who they are. Yeah, they put their treaty in with the United Nations or with the, you know, whatever, with the International Court of Justice or whatever. And you know, or really more so, like I said, go through the United Nations, because just putting your document with the International Court of Justice ain't good enough. You know, so like I said, they're not gonna. But when you're dealing with the United Nations, they have what's called the Secretary General, which is a depository for all the documentation of nations. And they have a subsidiary called the Office of Legal Affairs, where they handle all of these things. You know what I'm saying? So, and they have obligations, duties, rights, and all of that. I'm gonna go into that in the next bill. I'm gonna go into the Treaty Handbook and I'm gonna show y'all all the stuff I'm talking about, how it gets done, how basically our job is to draw up the documents. When we present them to the Secretary General, the Office of Legal Affairs, they're gonna fine tooth comb them, make sure everything is right and exact. Maybe give us back a correspondence. Oh, well, you gotta put this here, there, you missed this part. Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. We fixed that all up. Da, da, da. Everything's right and exact. The documents get presented. Sometime later, we get called in for a convention. We come, certain people. I would be one of them to go and speak on behalf of the nation, you know what I'm saying, for the nation, let's say, as a minister for foreign affairs, you know what I mean, and handle the politics and so forth. And not just me, but I'm saying I'm pointing myself because, like I said, look what I'm doing. I'm into this. I'm studying this. I know what I'm talking about. I'm qualified. I'm qualifying myself. All these videos I'm showing y'all how I'm breaking all this down, I'm showing you that I am qualified. I'm qualifying myself. You know what I'm saying? Now we saying the wisdom bill degree, you already about to say it's wisdom bill too. You know what I'm saying? How they was you know, the doctor, minister would qualify or disqualify, the intern, he would qualify, disqualify them to the minister. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the minister myself, minister for foreign affairs, not on some Yakub shit, but I'm the minister for foreign affairs. And I'm qualifying the information right here before all of y'all. You know what I'm saying? So you want to talk about people, somebody told me at the parliament, yeah, Yakub had rules and da 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 da. Okay, well, I'm showing you God's rules. I'm showing you how God is going to do this. You know what I'm saying? How the gods can do this and the earths. You know what I'm saying? So all that Yakub stuff, man, he kept mentioning Yakub. I ain't Yakub, man. What do you keep mentioning Yakub for? We not Yakub. This ain't Yakub world manifest. It's a law world manifest. So let's deal with a law world manifest. You know what I'm saying? And then also, too, just to speak on it, since it was mentioned to me, a brother was speaking to me about, he asked me that I know about the gun laws, the marriage laws, and all these different laws that the father had, you know, had prescribed or taught or so forth, so forth. And then I was asking around, I'm like, does anybody know these things? And then a couple of people saying, oh yeah, God, yeah, we know that. So I'm like, so why don't the whole nation know about this? And the brother gonna tell me, oh, it's not for everybody to know. And I was like, yo, that sounds like some Masonic shit right there. Like, come on, man. Right there before the part, like, come on, man. This what I'm talking about, man. So these type of brothers, man, when they be talking at, like, you want to tell me about some hidden information that the nation doesn't know at large and acting like I'm supposed to know this stuff or whatever. And being that I don't know, oh, I'm not supposed to know what I'm talking about. So for those of you who do know these gun laws and the marriage laws and da-da-da, why ain't y'all marrying people in our nation? Those of y'all who know these laws, because why ain't y'all enforcing these laws? You know what I'm saying? Why aren't people licensed carriers in our nation? Or like I was saying, how we could develop our own jurisdiction for our own nation, develop our own laws, and enforce our own right to bear arms. We haven't done that in the nation. I don't know anybody that's licensed to carry arms in the name of the nation or anything like that. I don't know. I don't see anybody marrying anybody in the nation. They talk about these gun laws that the father had, the marriage laws. So then those of y'all who know these laws, y'all haven't been teaching these laws. Y'all haven't been enforcing these laws. So here comes Messiah, just like Jesus in the Bible, coming to the Pharisees, telling them, is it not written in your law that ye are gods? You know what I'm saying? And bringing them back to the law. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Brothers want to come at me like a Pharisee, then I'm going to bring you back to the law. You know what I'm saying? Asking me, are we you gonna be the God? You gonna be the more? You gonna be, bro? I am the God. And since you mentioned to me about law, then I'm gonna bring you back to the law. And since you've been knowing these laws for however long you've known them, why haven't you been implementing these laws? Do you have a gun license? Are you licensed to carry a firearm and manifest in whatever gun law that the father had manifest? Please let me know. Are you marrying people in the nation? Are you a minister able to marry people, to marry the alike in our nation? Are you doing that? So why are you asking me about some laws that the father had manifest, and you're supposed to know these laws, but you haven't been implementing these laws? And the whole nation don't know about these so-called laws. So what are you telling me? that there's some kind of secret laws that I don't know about. And then, like I said, he kept mentioning Yaqub, like Yaqub had laws, you know what I'm saying, and da-da-da-da-da. Remember, Yaqub also had laws, rules and laws that are not mentioned in this degree. So if he was bringing up to me about some laws that I'm supposed to know, that's not known in our degrees or known in among the nation and so forth and so forth, are these some kind of secret rules, secret laws? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man, what kind of science you dealing with? And if you haven't been spreading these laws to the nation at large, are you keeping these laws a secret? Are you on some Yaqub stuff, keeping the laws a secret? Like, come on, man, you got to really pay attention to what people be saying, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and actions will speak for themselves. Nobody can tell me what I'm saying I'm lying. I'm quoting verbatim exactly the words that were said. So if anybody would tell me I'm lying, please show and prove to me I'm lying. These are the exact words that were said. So, I mean, I'm just analyzing the words and I'm trying to put it together. Like, why would you speak to me from that mentality and give the exact references that you made? And then as I draw it up, I see that, well, okay, what's really going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if there's some kind of secrecy going on in the nation or whatever, but I'm not with secrets. As y'all can see, everything I'm doing right here before y'all. I'm showing y'all. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully y'all spread these videos. Spread it with whomever. Spread it, share. You know what I'm saying? So y'all see what it is that I'm doing. All right, you know what? I could go through a whole lot of this stuff, but let me get to the point of what I was going to break down. This would be the last thing I break down because it was very important pertaining to everything I'm saying now, and it's just written in a way that'll make you really understand. Okay, there we go. All right, y'all. I know I've been going long. This will be the last thing, y'all. Here we go. So y'all can see this here. All right. It says, in regard more generally to territorial sovereignty, the court has enshrined the principle of the intangibility of frontier inherited from decolonization, as well as that of untipacity juris, whereby the legal title enjoys priority over effective possession. Oh, did y'all hear that? As the basis of sovereignty. Listen, y'all. It says, in regard more generally to territorial sovereignty, the court has enshrined the principle. And I looked up the word enshrine, because when I seen the word enshrine, it sounds to me like Shriners, you know, the Masons and all that. And you know, the root word is shrine, which is a place of worship for a certain deity and so forth, so forth. Enshrined means to be like basically encapsulated within that capacity. So they have basically took upon the capacity of the principle of intangible of the intangibility of frontiers inherited from decolonization. So in other words, they colonize people, and then after the decolonization, they basically took on the possession of those lands after decolonization. And it says, as well as the possessitis juris, whereby the legal title enjoys priority over effective possession as the basis of sovereignty. So, like I was saying, some people say that there's an adverse possession claim on the land, and like we could try to make that claim because we've been physically possessing the land. But like I said, if there are some people that have some kind of contract, some kind of legal title, they will enjoy the priority over the effective possession. Meaning, let's say like after that title is up, that we got with Mayor Lindsay, he said we got the school for 100 years, we have about another 50 years. So after that 50 years is up, right? You know, because mad brothers be talking about this and so forth, and they be asking questions, and nobody wants to answer things, and everybody be, oh well, you know, all of that, right? Well, anyway, I know stuff. I'm not stupid. So this is the information that I'm sharing to give some people an idea of what may be going on. You know what I'm saying? Because everything is a secret or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's really going on? We just want to know what's going on with the school so we can try to add on, man. I'm studying all this legal information, and I'm telling you how we can secure the school. This is to secure the school, not for me to be like, oh, he's the one that came forth with an idea that did something and da. Man, skip all of that, man. Look over all of that, man. Get all of that out of you. Look at what I'm doing and what I'm showing y'all. And this is what whomever is the said person of the ability should be doing, you know what I'm saying, as far as with the school and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? So it says a possession as base. So it says whereby the legal title enjoys priority over the effective possession as a basis of sovereignty. So in other words, meaning whoever holds the legal title to that land, and this is why I say we need to put more than just an adverse possession claim on the land and the school. We need to put the land and the school into trust and a will. And then that will, because a will is, you know, like King L. Bay saying, will is the most important document. You know what I'm saying? So the will being the most important document, you know what I'm saying? That will have a larger claim than any commercial contract that the city might try to have on that land. Because you best believe, man, that square right there where we at, where the school is at, we in the heart of Harlem. We in the heart of Mecca. You think these devils ain't plotting on that land? Yes, man, they are. So when that 50 years is up, you best believe they got 1,000 contracts they're gonna have in place to try to usurp that land. So unless we have that land in a trust or a will and have some legally binding contractual possession of that land and school, guess what? Whereby the legal title enjoys priority over the effective possession as a basis of sovereignty. So we could, after that 50 years is up, we could physically be there trying to be like, yo, this is ours, we ain't going nowhere, and da. Guess what? Whoever has a contract in place, they can pay a motherfucking bulldozer to come and knock that damn building down and start rebuilding whatever they have in contract to build. That's a fact, y'all. I'm not saying something like, yo, what he talking about? He don't know what he talking about. I'm telling you facts, man. And I'm telling y'all, if we don't act now more than later, what are we waiting on? Were we waiting for the 50 years to be up? No, we need to act now because this information is available. Maybe it wasn't available 50 years ago, 60 years ago, back in God born, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, but it's available now. You know what I'm saying? It's available now. So I'm making this information available. I don't have to be the only one to build on this. I'm asking brothers to take this information and not run with it, but take this information and build with it, be constructive with it. You know what I'm saying? Add on. You know what I'm saying? Let's have conferences. Let's have meetings, not secret meetings, but let's have meetings. Let's build on this. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Let's add on. Let's see what we can do. After I do the build on the Treaty Handbook, I'm gonna show y'all some other things I've been looking into. They have performance bond. Remember I was talking about the performance bonds and payment bonds? They have performance bonds and performance bonds and payment bonds for construction contracts. Y'all hear this, y'all? This is how basically we can get a performance bond and a construction payment bond for a construction contract where we can actually add those 7 layers onto the school people been talking about for all these years. I have information on how we can actually get the funds to get that done. And it ain't begging the white man for no funds, because there's been little subsidiary things in this nation that were funded by the government. So I don't know what people talking about, all this begging the white man for this, that, and the third. Obviously, people have been doing that already, because there are, there are little subsidiaries in this nation that are funded by the government. The food program at the parliaments, what is that funded by? Allah Youth Center in Mecca. What is that funded by? When back in the days when the father was dealing with the Urban League, and we had the program going on for the GED and the trade schools and so forth and whatnot. Who was that funded by? The father didn't come out his pocket with all that money. He obviously was dealing in politics and associating with town leaders, community leaders, heads of state, politicians, whomever, city leaders. They say he had Mayor Lindsay in his pocket. You know what I'm saying? He was known as the mayor's man. You know what I'm saying? Like, so obviously he was dealing in political activity. So why are we acting like politics, or people come with that, oh, poly means many ticks and bloodsuckers, we don't deal with politics and all that? Okay. So is this why we don't have resource or the abundance of resources we could have for our nation? Because we don't deal in politics? We poor righteous teachers. We a nation within a nation. We good. We good. Somebody told me, yo, we good. Yo, we good. You know what I'm saying? We teaching. We adding on. And I'm like, yo, teaching ain't enough, man. Don't you know in certain countries overseas, like say Islamic countries, you got kids that are 4 years old that can recite the Quran, like the whole Quran. You know what I'm saying? Like, no joke. Literally, like they recite, or if not like the whole Quran, like, you know, a lot of the chapters, what they call the hadiths and all of that, they recite these things. Little 4-year-old children. I remember my sisters, my niece and nephew, their father is Muslim. I remember when they were I was like 12, 13, maybe around the time, they were reciting the Bismillahir Rahim, Hamdulillah Alim, you know what I'm saying, reciting the Adhan, the call to prayer, you know what I'm saying, like speaking the Arabic, and they was young, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, teaching, like, come on, people teaching all over the world. You know, I'm like, teaching is not like, you know what I mean, your greatest success, because you can teach a whole lot of people stuff and they could forget it too, or they could ignore it. You know what I'm saying? Or they could revert back to their ways because they're not rooted in the information. It's like you may be the one who taught them. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So we got to understand that there's a whole lot of more things. We have to do. But anyway, pause stuff. Let me get back to this. Like I was saying about the legal title. So we have to. I would say we should get a more secure legal title on the school and the land. You know what I mean? And then it goes on to say possession being decisive only in the absence of such title. Listen, y'all. Possession being decisive, meaning they'll decide, meaning the possession of the land would be decisive, meaning it could be a decision of who actually owns it, only in the absence of such title. So like I said, we have that contract on the school for 100 years, but once that title runs out, what's the renewing contract? What is the next contract that's going to stand before any other person's contract on the school? Like right after we did that contract, there could have been another people that heard about that, like, well, they got a 100-year contract on that school, but then I'm gonna put in another contract. So when that's over, I put in a contract with the state that we're gonna have possession of the land. You know what I'm saying? So now we have to do something even more to secure the land so that whoever else, and I'm pretty sure they definitely put in contracts, they're just pending, you know what I'm saying, waiting for those 50 years, to wait for that 100-year span to be up. And these contracts are pending. So we have to put down some legal paperwork to outweigh any other outstanding contract or outstanding presentation or outstanding counterclaim. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to be able to contest any of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm gonna be around the next 50 years. You know what I'm saying? So somebody got to get this knowledge and keep passing it on and passing it down, because if not, when the next 50 years go by, we could lose our school. It is possible. It is very possible. Why everybody just sitting around here talking about, yo, man, we sovereign. We got a claim on the school. We got it, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, but there's more. There's more. That ain't the end all. That ain't the end all be all. That's what I'm trying to explain. So, so Pete, right? It says possession being decisive only in the absence of such title. Frontier dispute on Bunky, Vassi versus Mali, whatever, land, maritime. So that was like a case law that made that determination. So going into that, if you read that right there, in Nigeria, territorial, damn, get off the thing, territorial maritime dispute, as you see down there. So anyway, so it says possession being decisive only in absence of such title. So, like I said, after that 50 years is up, if we don't have another title in place, another claim in place for the school, then guess what? We're going to be in absence of the title, and then the possession will be decisive. Who's going to make the decision? The state. And then the state is going to say, well, you got the school in, what was it, 1967 or so, or 60s? What year we got the school? Excuse me for not knowing that offhand. But however, whatever year we got the school, and then probably the next year or the same year, you know what I'm saying, you best believe people put in counterclaims or claims after that to be like, okay, well, after that time span is up, we want dibs on that land. So you best believe, man, that land that's sitting right there in the heart of Harlem, we better more securely protect that. I have the legal information. It's right here before you, some of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, in the next one, I'm gonna go into the Treaty Handbook. I'm gonna go into I went into the laws of nations. I broke down. I did that. You know what I'm saying? In the past, like 3 or 4 videos, you go back and watch. I'm gonna go into the irrevocable letter of credit, which is how you get the performance bond and the payment bond for the construction contract. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to build on that and how we can actually get a contract to build and add on to our school. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. And we will look into see, because now, knowledge this, right? We talking about, like, because, and this is another thing we got to understand too, which I'm aware of as well. We don't want to necessarily incorporate the school in certain types of ways, but however, it is a corporate school. The school is a corporation, a law school in Mecca, INC. On the record, it's an INC. It's an incorporated school. So that is a fact. So, like I said, being that it is an incorporated entity, commercial law will apply to this commercial entity. So now, like I said, and that's for the school itself. Now, as far as the land, as far as more than just an adverse possession claim on the land, we need to put a blood right and a just singular blood right of the land, a right of the land, right of blood, all of that good stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? Allodial title, indigenous claim, all of that good stuff. Like I said, anything older than 50 years is an ancient history. And then we even go back to the 1920s, the Harlem Renaissance and all of that too. That's part of our history. You know what I'm saying? We got to understand that. Black people restructuring and rebuilding civilization. You understand? Through all that we did. So you got to understand that, all of that. 1960s civil rights movement, all of that is part of our history. You know what I'm saying? So we can incorporate all, we can associate all of that through reference. You know what I'm saying? So basically, like I was saying, man, as far as where it says for sovereignty, so in absence of the legal title, in absence of the claim, in absence of you actually declaring, you know what I'm saying, what it is, then they're gonna, what they call presumption, they're gonna presume that it is what they say it is. Because like I said, they do have contracts in place, such as, like I said, the birth certificate, social security number, state ID that we all voluntarily went and got. And that was, like I said, that was the trick too. Because when you turn the age of 18, that's when you're of the age of majority and you're no longer a minority or a minor. And you're therefore able to speak for yourself, think for yourself, and act for yourself. That's when you actually would be technically sovereign. And then at that age, you could rescind all the contracts. Like you could say, yo, I don't want the social security number. I rescind the birth certificate and just be so-called just free man on the land, so to speak. But they say, oh, when you turn 18, go and get an ID so you can get a job and you can be identified in the state that you're in. And that's how they trap you back into the jurisdiction of the state. Soon as you got free, you went and voluntarily contracted back into a form of slavery or bondage through the ID. See what I'm saying? And now the state identifies you as X, Y, and Z. See what I'm saying? So now, when you might have seen online, I did my state ID with my righteous name updated. When I did that, I also gave them my declaration of name change and so forth due to my own laws, my own status, my own indigenous history, and so forth, So now that what I gave them as an annex or attachment to their contract, it now becomes what you call an adhesion contract or an adhesion to the contract. So the contract was me applying for the state ID, but the adhesion or the extra or the new stipulation to the contract would be the nationality documentation or the name change documents that I also gave them. So now they gave me this ID along with that documentation as them agreeing to them giving me this ID based upon those stipulations of that thing. So and in the documentation stating that I'm not the straw man, I'm not you know, if I take on this ID, it's only for identification purposes, you know, all that good stuff. So they accepted that. So being that they accepted that, now if they try to claim me as being their property or hold me in any kind of way subject to the state, I can now bring forth that adhesion as a new stipulation in the contract that they accepted. Remember, it's about contract law. One of the first rules in contract law is offer and acceptance. So the same thing, like I said, with the Universal Treaty, if we draw up the Universal Treaty and we offer it to nations and they accept it, that means that they are the acceptors of the contract. They accepted, they contract with us more so. You know what I'm saying? So even though, like I said, I initially filled out their initial contract, but I added an adhesion or a new stipulation to the contract, which they accepted. So now they are also I'm acceptance of their contract. They're in acceptance of my contract. So now that's what you call equal consideration. So now if I want to equally opt out of them trying to claim any type of jurisdiction over me by the state, I present this documentation and I state how and why. You know what I'm saying? And based upon the fact that they accepted it and they didn't send me in the mail like a couple of days later, like, hold on, we finally read over your paperwork. We didn't know that you put in here that you're going to say that you're not subject to the state and that we can't have jurisdiction over you anymore if we give you this ID. Oh, wait a minute. We just took it real fast and we didn't actually read all that blah, blah, blah shit. We didn't want to read all of that shit. We were being ignorant. But hold on, we actually read it though. And it said, no, we don't agree with that. And No, they didn't send me nothing like that in the mail. They didn't call me on the phone. They didn't do nothing of that. So that means that it's been way more than 90 days. That means that they acquiesce. That means that they are in agreement. It is a non-contesting contract now. They have not contested the contract or the adhesion to the contract that I presented them when I, did this contracting. So you understand? So I understand contract law, y'all. I'm trying to give y'all some knowledge and understanding on contract law. This is how you contract. And if you want to declare yourself sovereign, if you are a nation within a nation, the only way you can declare yourself sovereign is that you have to renounce your allegiance to that nation that you're said to be within. Then you'll be sovereign. If you're still a nation within a nation with a birth certificate, social security number, state ID in your pocket, in your wallet right now, don't front, don't lie for nobody, you can't ignore it, reach in your pocket, you got it right now, then yes, you are still subject. So that's just facts. So I advise that we get up on this information, man. Let's make knowledge born and let's get it. Let's stop sitting there arguing. I done thoroughly explained this to y'all. I just showed y'all right here how I broke down in absence of the legal title, then they're going to presume possession. And it also says as well, it says the legal title enjoys priority over effective possession. So like I said, after those 50 years is up, we could be physically there trying to squat on the land and somebody could have a contract to come in and say, excuse me, you people have to exit this land. We have a contract. We're about to take this building down. We're about to build a fucking whatever the hell they build here. You know what I'm saying? And what we gonna do? We gonna stand in front of the bulldozer now, Cypher, God, we the gods, we ain't letting this happen. No, Come on, man. We got to be realistic, man. So the pen is mightier than the sword. Let us understand legal information. Let us understand how to legally protect things and get this legal information documented that we need to get documented. I already have a lot of it drawn up. You know what I'm saying? So I can save the nation a lot of time. I have a lot of it drawn up already. I'm going to come. If y'all want to sit down and have a meeting with me, call the meeting. I will bring forth the documentation. We can sit down. And I'm not the only one to have information. There's a lot of guards I've dealt with that know the same stuff that I know too. But maybe they weren't allowed to talk about it because the father didn't teach that. And all of that brothers be saying. There's a whole lot of things that the father didn't teach. In his time, he wasn't here. He couldn't teach all the things that was in his mind. He didn't have time to, because guess what? You know what I'm saying? He went back to the essence in knowledge born, equality God. Knowledge born, equality born. You know what I'm saying? So come on now. Let's say if he was still here till today, to wisdom cipher, wisdom knowledge, 2021. All the more things he could have taught us. So come on now. So if we still standing on what he said all them years ago and we haven't added on and built, then that means that we haven't been doing what the Father taught us to do, which was be greater than him. He taught us to add on, continue to build. So if we still stuck on what was said years ago or what was done years ago and we not adding on with new works, then we're not what you call renewing. That's now the thought came back to me what I was going to say before when I lost my thought about 2 hours ago about renewing your history. And I'm going to end off on this note. When you renew, means to do again. New means something that's new. You know what I'm saying? Something that wasn't there before. So when you renew your history, means to do again. So that means that your renewing of the history, it's going to be founded on certain principles or foundations of the past history. But then as time goes on, new history is being made. We're making history right now as we speak. New history is being made. Then you're going to add on that new history. And guess what? The past history is going to now become something new. And that means that you renewed your history. You didn't old your history. You didn't recycle your history. You renewed your history. So the reason why a lot of brothers are still stuck on what the father may have said or what Elijah said or what Noble Drew said or what Farrakhan said or what Malcolm said or what these past people said is because they haven't renewed their history. In 2021, guess what? It's about what you say. It's about what you say. You have to bring in something new into existence. You have to renew the history. Naeem Akbar, PhD, said in his book, Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery, he said, he who is ignorant to history is doomed to repeat it. So if we're ignorant to our past history, then guess what? We're going to be doomed to repeat the same things that we did because we didn't learn new things. And like I said, a lot of brothers got to get off of that. The father didn't teach that because of course he didn't. He wasn't here to teach it. He's not here today to teach it. You mean to tell me that the only thing we ever going to learn as a nation is what the father said and then that's it and it's written in stone and we can't learn nothing else as a nation? Like that's it? Come on now. That means that we don't do him no service as his sons and daughters, that we didn't add on and renew the history and bring about new things and add on and be new and flourish and be fruitful and multiply. You know what I'm saying? Because we still stuck and hanging on to something old. No, man. It's about renewing. It's about updating. You know what I'm saying? Bringing up to date. We're in 2021. We're not in 1970. We're not in 71. We're not in 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. I was born in 82. You know what I'm saying? Build wisdom. So, you know, it's a new day. It's time for the new generation. I guess you could say the new generation to add on. It's time for some brothers to pass the torch and let the new brothers do what they need to do. Let the younger God, and I'm not, I'm understanding born. I'm not a younger God. I keep referring to myself like I'm a young God. I'm not a young God, quote unquote. But compared to some of the other brothers in my nation that may be maybe decades older than me, yeah, I'm considered a young God. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not young. You know what I'm saying? Young gods is like in their teens, in their 20s. Those young gods. You know what I'm saying? But it's like gods that might be in a God ciphers or equality ciphers, they need to let the gods in a culture ciphers and understanding ciphers, you know what I'm saying, take the lead of things and start to build. And then those brothers in a culture ciphers and understanding ciphers need to let the brothers in the wisdom ciphers and their teens take the lead and do things, because we got to groom the younger gods and earths up to do greater works. You know what I'm saying? I was listening to Lord Jamal earlier in a bill they was doing, you know, in the barbershop and whatnot. They got this new thing on whatever, it's podcast, and they was breaking down how somebody had asked him how come the conscious rappers didn't challenge the unconscious rappers and so forth, and how they let things get taken over and so forth and da 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 da. And he said, well, being that just because brothers had knowledge of self and so forth, brothers were still New York, you know what I'm saying, like New York niggas, basically, like, you know what I'm saying, brothers from New York and shit, and had that whole, like, as far as when it came to DJing, he said some brothers, you would go up to the stage and they would like have the name of the record scratched out, so you wouldn't even know what the record was, like on some like, yo man, figure it out in your own type shit, like, you know what I'm saying, like a lot of brothers was on some like, yo, I'm holding this for myself, you got to figure it out on your own type shit. And that may be happening in the nation too, where certain brothers know certain histories, or certain brothers know certain things that where they could pass it on to a younger brother. But what, you want to go to the grave with the history? Like, come on, man, like what's going on? If anything, you could pass it on, man. Give it up, man. Give it up to somebody younger, so so the history don't die. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like certain brothers want certain histories. Like, if it was something that you don't want to share with everybody, okay, yeah, keep that to yourself. Take that to the grave. But as far as the history, like things pertaining to the father, or pertaining to the nation, or history that you may have made in the nation and did that, like, pass that on, God, pass it on, pass on the torch. We hear that we hear the, you know, in the relay race, you know what I'm saying? If you can't run the whole race, you got to pass on the baton to the next person coming after you. And we got our arms out, we stretching for the baton. And some brothers like, man, but you gonna finish the whole race on your own? You can't. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? You're gonna get tired and you're gonna get passed on by the people who are passing on the torch. So symbolically, look at other nations or other groups of people. They're passing on the torch. So their nations are thriving and going on and growing and developing. If certain brothers are holding the torch or holding the baton and not passing it on, then guess what? We're going to get surpassed by these other people. And people say, yo, how come everybody, all brothers, a lot of brothers, it was mad gods back in the days. Now everybody want to be blood. Everybody want to be Crip. Everybody want to be this. Everybody want to be that. Maybe because a baton wasn't passed for them to have something to cling on to. Brothers wanted to finish the whole race by themselves and just hold that history and hold that knowledge to themselves and just die with it instead of passing it on to the next generation. So what did the younger generation go and do? They found somebody that accepted them, that welcomed them in, that passed them some kind of baton, even though it wasn't the right baton, but they passed them something. And these babies got their hands out. The youth got their hands out. They reaching, they searching for something. So what we gonna give them? You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna end on that note, y'all, man. I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? Everything I say is out of love and out of elevation for our nation, y'all. Peace to the fam. I love y'all. Peace.